Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
At this time, we go around and say our names and share something. And today's question is to say some aspect of yourself in which you have confidence. So, try to think about it or something. Short answer. Yeah, it has to be one word. So my name is Bob, and I have confidence in my housekeeping ability.
Douglas, intelligence.
David, confidence in my curiosity.
Sambo, I cannot think of anything.
CJ, confidence and ability to relate to people.
Baruch, my mind.
Howard, kindness.
Juan, attention to detail.
Let's take a second round. Me?
For us, suppose yoga practice.
I'm Carl. With confidence in my heart.
And I'm Milo, and I have confidence in my love for swimming.
I'm Marvin, and I have confidence in my confidence.
I'm Michael, and I have confidence in my ability to communicate.
Joe, art making.
Nobu, art.
John, confidence that my confusion will sort itself out.
Salamander, and I have confidence in the uncomplicated love of my cat.
Richard, and I'd say love.
Jamie, confidence in us.
Anthony, confidence in living alone.
Paul, follow through.
Dean, confidence in my witness.
I'm Ramy, confidence in my ability to teach.
I'm Todd, I have confidence in my ability to listen.
I'm Michael, and I don't know what I
Cheers.
I'm Peter. I am lacking in confidence.
Francis, I'm always curious about everything, wide-ranging curiosity.
I'm Paul, and I have confidence in my higher power.
I'm Steve, and I'm a pretty good 6th grade teacher.
Good enough.
My name is Jim, and I have confidence in Wolfram.
I'm Robert, and I'm confident about my ability to love.
I'm Scott, and I have confidence in my renewable passion.
Peter, confidence in what I do at work.
I'm Ray. I have confidence in giving a massage.
I'm Clint. I have confidence in my mortality.
One of the
I'm Daniel. I guess that I'm confident in taxes.
I'm Jack. I've been on vacation. I'm too unfocused.
I'm Tom. I have
have confidence in my practice.
My name is Jeff. I have confidence in my vision.
Lisa, confidence in change.
And my name is Tim, and I have confidence in the Dharma, in the Buddhist teachings, and in my sincerity in practicing them.
Okay, so Tim Wickens is our speaker today. He began his practice in the Theravada tradition in 1991 and has attended many Vipassana retreats, including several 3-month retreats in Massachusetts. A Bay Area native and a carpenter by trade, he lived and worked for 2 years at Spirit Rock and has participated in GBF on and off since 1993. In 2001, he spent a period retreat as a monk in Burma and has recently returned from a month's stay at Chithurst Buddhist Monastery in England. Tim will describe his experience at Chithurst and how Ajahn Sumedho, senior monk at the monastery, helped him with his long-time struggle with self-doubt.
If I can get anything across in what I end up saying here, it would I would hope it would be to instill some flicker of increase in self-confidence in ourselves. That's where that question came up. When I thought about what I wanted to talk about, it was about doubt. But talking about doubt, thinking about doubt, practicing with doubt is working with confidence, working with self-confidence. They're two sides of the same coin. And I think that self-confidence and confidence in the teachings of whatever spiritual tradition you may feel drawn towards are absolutely essential, fundamental to be able to practice that in that tradition to benefit. So that's my hope, that I can get across some of my own confidence to you all. So I last June I sat a retreat at Spirit Rock with a teacher named Ajahn Sumedho, who I don't know if you've heard of Ajahn Chah. He's or Jack Cornfield at Spirit Rock, if these names are familiar. Ajahn Sumedho sort of figures into that whole tradition from Thailand, the Thai forest tradition. He's the man who introduced Jack Cornfield to Ajahn Chah, to his teacher, in the mid-60s. At any rate, Ajahn Sumedho's 73 years old now. He's American. He's from Seattle originally, spent many years in Thailand, now lives at a monastery in England. And I sat this retreat with him, having had a little exposure to him in the past when I lived at Spirit Rock. And I was so impressed with him that I wanted to spend more time. And in this retreat, it was even, I just felt more drawn to spend time around him. Asked him how I could do that, and he suggested that I come to Chithurst Monastery in southern England this last winter to help out, to be every year the monks and nuns take a 3-month period of retreat, and they have lay people support them, making food, so they can just practice. So I volunteered to go there for a month, and in doing so, had a chance to spend more time around Ajahn Sumedho. Has anyone here spent time in a Buddhist monastery? I'm curious what anyone's who hasn't, what images might come to mind about what life might be like in a Buddhist monastery. Anyone?
Quiet.
Simple.
Boring.
Regular.
Waking up too early.
Simple.
It was some of those things. It wasn't others of those things. I had a lot of assumptions. I'd been in some monasteries before, but I really had no idea what this place was going to be like. And in ways it was austere, and in ways it wasn't austere. It was really comfortable. I mean, there was warm water. I didn't even know if that would be the case. The rooms were warm. I thought it could be really, really tough. But just the way that people were in this place was so supportive and so warm. Maybe it's because Ajahn Chah really focuses a lot on the community, the relationship between the monastics and the community. So it's not all about the monastics going into retreat and just doing their practice inside and they're going to be free and regardless of anybody else. It's very much about integrating community with into the whole scene. It's a broad vision of freedom, really. So there were about 22 monks and nuns at this monastery, and they were almost all Westerners from Czechoslovakia, Australia, just all over the place. People come to the monastery, to Ajahn Sumedho, and to these teachers. I'm feeling. I wanted to talk about the monastery a bit, just to sort of plant an image, in case there might be just one person out here who, at some point in his life might feel drawn to that. But as I'm doing it, it feels like just facts. I'm saying that it's, I guess it's the subject of confidence where really my that's what I'm most interested in. I feel like I'm getting boring in talking about the monastery. Let me see if there's anything I really want to say about the monastery, and then I'll move on from that.
Well, I'd appreciate it if you'd say something physically. Was it one big building?
Okay, sure.
Was it a castle? And
they're all
dormitories?
Yeah, it's an 1860s manor house that they bought in completely dilapidated condition. It's in the countryside in southern England, in an area that is very similar to Marin at this point. It's extremely expensive to live there, and it's gorgeous. So it's this big, beautiful Victorian, probably, manor house, a few stories high. They've rebuilt it. It's surrounded by open fields that have rabbits running through it. It's kind of, fairy tale-ish in a way. Babbling brook. There's a 1,000-year-old church just within sight down the road. It feels very old, and it's rural. We all had chores to do, and one of the favorite chores was taking the compost to the neighboring farm and feeding it to the pigs and the goats and things like that. So it's very, very pastoral, very protected. It's a training monastery. Some monasteries are places where the monks and nuns they've been doing their practice for a long time and they don't need a lot of support, and they're just doing their own practice. This place is for more younger, newer monks and nuns. So the rules are sort of more tight, and it's seen as a training monastery. So it is, we got up at 4 every morning, and there was a 10-day retreat that, in the midst of this 3-month retreat, Ajahn Sumedho did a 10-day retreat, and he would give his Dharma talks at 4:30 in the morning. So that's when you if you wanted to catch the teachings, wake up. That's when he's sharpest. So there's one lay person who lives there, helping out during the year, and other than that, they don't. These monks in this tradition, monks and nuns, handle no money. They they don't even make their own food or anything. It's all done by volunteers. And there's a large community in London of Thai people and Sri Lankan people in the Theravada tradition. And so almost every day, but especially on weekends, all these people would show up in cars, well dressed, with their children, and just tons of food, all kinds of food. And it was amazing to see them all come. And they'd walk up Tajahn Sumedho on their knees in the meditation hall, and like big bags of food, they'd put them in front of him, and he would accept it. It was really touching. One of the ways being at the monastery affected me was I found myself being more generous with everyone around me. It was like a field that I went into. I couldn't help but my heart opened, my mouth smiled, and I felt like giving, because everybody else was doing the same thing. It was very powerful. Another way that it affected me was I went with the intention of using that month that I was there as a retreat for myself. I was going to be cooking and all, but I wanted to do a lot of practice. And I noticed that everybody else around me was really sort of going with the flow. And in retreat, I'm used to sort of bearing down and protecting my concentration. And I loosened up about that. It felt like that holding to a tight form was kind of, in a way, it has its useful aspects, developing concentration, for example. But it was more useful to relax and be part of the community, flow with what was happening. So I kind of relaxed a bit more. There was a third thing I wanted to say. Oh, just accepting what's offered. That's very much a part of the Buddhist monastic tradition. Just whatever comes, as long as it's not harmful, accepting it. So around the food, that especially was the case. So people, I didn't have any choice about what I was eating. It depended entirely upon what people brought to the monastery. So, I usually don't like to eat a lot of preservatives, or but whatever came, I ate it. And one time, we all got sick. We were all up all night with the runs, except for one person who didn't eat the one dish. That's how we knew which one it was. But that wasn't a problem, because, if we'd all died, I guess it would have been a problem. But it just felt good to accept what was being offered. That opening of the heart and not protecting felt really good. It just felt good. Ajahn Sumedho's teachings are very simple. He can expound endlessly. It's amazing, brilliantly, endlessly. I don't know where it comes from, but basically he keeps coming back to a few points. He again and again and again he stresses the importance of, like all teachers, Buddhist teachers do, of developing the habit of awareness, of mindfulness, of being aware of what's happening, and of investigating our experiences, just watching our minds, attempting to watch our minds without judgment, to just notice them impartially. One tool that he uses is a simple phrase. It's like this. So I got into the habit of, when I'd see some emotion come up, I would say to myself, it's like this. And one way that hearing those words in my mind affected me would be to help me be present with what's happening. This is what's happening, and it's like this. Another way that it affected me was acceptance. It's like this. This is what's happening. Even if I don't like it, this is what's happening. It's like this. Very, very simple, but it went in for me. And to move towards the topic of doubt and confidence, again and again he implored us to trust ourselves. And more specifically, to trust awareness. To trust ourselves sort of implies that we have to do it right. But there's a power in awareness itself, which is non-personal. It's just awareness. And there's a power that comes through that. And so to trust in awareness. In a way, we don't have to do anything. Awareness just does it itself. He referred to it as intuitive awareness. He started using the word intuition a number of years ago to try to get across to Westerners that it's not about thinking. It's intuitive. It's more, he kept pointing, down here. So it's actually very, for me it's been very confusing because I use my mind. I always try to use my mind to figure out what to do. And I feel pretty helpless if my mind doesn't know what to do. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere or doing anything unless my mind knows what it's supposed to do and feels like it's in control. But ultimately that's a delusion. He used the phrase one time for me. He said, it takes an imminent act of trust. He's always trying to get under, get under the mind. So let me say a few words just about doubt, sort of from the texts, from the classic texts. Doubt is considered to be one of the 5 hindrances to the unfolding of our spiritual practice. The others being desire, aversion, restlessness, and sloth and torpor, sort of along the lines of sleepiness or low energy. And doubt's the 5th one. And doubt is really the most difficult to work with. So if you experience yourself as having a lot of doubt about yourself or about the teachings or whatever you care about, if there's doubt in your life, if there's doubt that comes along in your mind, you might consider feeling some compassion towards yourself in that situation, because doubt is, desire and aversion, anger, those are pretty obvious. We oftentimes know when we're stuck in fear. But doubt is slippery. It's subtle, It is the mind, and we're very identified with our minds generally, and so we become that doubt. You can't see it if you are it. So it's tricky. It's really tricky. Actually, a friend on the way over from Oakland, my friend David here, he mentioned watching the X-Men movie, which I haven't seen, but he used a phrase that really made me think about the difficulty in relating to doubt. He was talking about how so many, he could sort of go along with a lot of what these superheroes were doing, but it sort of got to be too much eventually. Now, David, what did you say? Where did you put it? Oh yes, that to watch superhero movies, action movies like that, it requires a suspension of disbelief. A suspension of disbelief, and I thought that's really what it is like so much of the time to work with doubt, because I just will. Why should I believe that what I'm thinking is wrong? If it feels right in my mind, whatever doubting thought, doubting myself, I can't do this, I'm not good enough to do this practice. Why should I? What reason is there to disbelieve that? And until there's what the Buddha called verified faith, there can be bright faith in the beginning of meditation practice. you're inspired by the teachings or an image or other people, teachers. But until there's some, what the Buddha called verified faith, where you know something about the truth and about the power of delusion in the mind, it requires a suspension of disbelief. That's that imminent act of trust that Ajahn Sumedho was talking about. It's a leap of faith. That can be helpful in the practice. The Pali word, the old the language in which the Buddha's teachings were first written down, for doubt is, I think it's pronounced vicikiccha, and one teacher defined it as the exhaustion of the mind through conjecture, and labeled the proximate cause of doubt as being improper attention. Or an improper adjustment of the mind in the search for truth. I really liked that because it brought up compassion for me. Again, it's like a lot of the suffering that I go through in my mind because of doubt. My mind is actually trying to be free. It's trying to see the truth, but it just doesn't understand. It doesn't really see the truth of things. It is trying to see the truth. So it's poignant. I feel compassion for myself in that, in dealing with doubt. So some of the classic antidotes for working with doubt in the mind are to just, one, directly observe it. This is if you can take a leap of faith and see what your mind, if you realize that the thoughts that are happening are doubting types of thoughts, and you're willing to take that leap of faith and recognize it as doubt, then you can notice it as doubt, label it as doubt, say to yourself, this is doubt, and just watch the mind in a sort of clinical, simple Vipassana style way. Just watch the mind, and that can be an antidote to doubt. Another antidote is to cultivate the opposite state, state of faith. So reading books that are inspiring, or hearing teachings, or looking at it. Maybe for some people, looking at a Buddha image, a Buddha rupa, whatever it might be. Maybe it's the simplicity of your cat that somehow inspires faith. You can, because there in that cat is non-doubt. Clearly, cats have such confidence generally. And it's possible as well to just notice doubt and recognize it for what it is and abandon it. Just let it go. But that's kind of a high art form to me. Usually what happens for me with doubt, it's usually doubting myself. I'm going to fail. I can't do this. I'm never going to get anywhere. I'm going to get to the end of my life, and on my deathbed I will look back and I will have missed the boat. It didn't happen. I wasted my life. I did something wrong. That's my mind. Just welcome to my mind. That's been so much of it, and these long retreats that I've sat on, it's just been so painful a lot of the time, because that's what I'm listening to, and it's how to get out of it. It's just so tricky. So usually it spirals. The doubt itself is just thinking. It's just thought. But as a friend of mine, who I was just asking for some, his thoughts about doubt, he said doubt often configures itself with other unwholesome states. So I quickly moved from doubt doubting thoughts, just the simple thought, a neutral thought in the mind, to worry, and to fear, and to terror. I go into terror. I work myself up into terror through doubt, through doubting thoughts. You know, I'm a failure. I'm never going to get anywhere in my life. I can go into, you know, biological, physiological terror if I stay with that. And then it's not doubt anymore. Then it's, you know, then it's fear. Then it's a whole host of, it's what one teacher of mine referred to as a multiple hindrance attack. Got all kinds of hindrances coming at you at once, and you're down on the mat, you know, that's it. It's really hard. So, Ajahn Sumedho at Chithurst in February said one thing that really helped me quite a lot. And there's a little story that led up to it. I was tried to carve out blocks of time to do meditation practice in, some sitting and walking, when I didn't have choice to do. And there was one of those blocks of time where I really got into one of these cycles of doubt and fear. And oftentimes, over all the years, oftentimes what the actual thinking is should I be doing a concentration practice or should I be doing Vipassana practice? What practice should I do? You know, and I think, well, I don't feel like I'm very concentrated, so I should, you know, I'm not going to be able to do Vipassana practice to any beneficial effect unless I strengthen my concentration. And so, I'll just stay with sensations in my body, or, you know, walking or hearing, or, you know, I'll pick something and stay with it. But then pretty soon after that, I'll think, if I just do concentration practice all the time, that doesn't lead to wisdom. You know, it's the Vipassana practice that actually leads to wisdom. I'm never going to get anywhere. And so at some point I'll get afraid enough that I'll switch to Vipassana practice. But then my mind will get lost and scattered, and I think, oh, I'm not concentrated enough to do this. And there was this one period in February where over a course of a couple hours, that fluctuation, that changing my mind, going back and forth, it got faster and faster and faster. Eventually I was out walking in the meadow doing thinking, well, it looked like I was doing walking meditation. But I was switching back and forth between practices like every 5 or 10 seconds, you know. And I finally realized this is ridiculous, you know. This is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not doing meditation here. I'm just stuck in fear and doubt. And so I just canned the whole thing, and I sat down on a bench that was nearby, and I happened to have an article in my pocket. I'd torn out a newspaper from when I was doing a chore earlier. I pulled out this article, and I didn't even get my eyes down onto it. Just as if I was going to start to read, but I was full of emotion. I just burst into tears. You know, it was so painful. It was just really, really painful. So I was telling this to another of the lay supporters at the monastery, and she encouraged me to ask to see Ajahn Sumedho. I was telling her that this has been going on for years. It's a sort of deep thing for me, this doubt and fear. And so I asked for an interview with him, and he doesn't grant a lot of interviews anymore. He's kind of getting older and pulling back a lot, but he gave me some time, maybe because he himself has dealt with doubt quite a lot in his life. So he spent an hour with me, and I was able to just dump out all of my doubts in front of him. I kept yes-butting him. Every time he would say anything, you know, I'd say, but what about this? But I tried that, and this happened, and what about this? And, you know, and finally he beamed his eyes at me, and sort of he got even bigger. He's a big guy, and he got even bigger, and he said, order yourself to trust yourself. I couldn't really say anything to that, you know. And he did it, you know, it was sort of fierce, but I knew that doing it in a caring way, and he was instructing me to be fierce with myself. I mean, that's one approach that we can take. If we can do it cleanly without hurting ourselves, that can be helpful. And actually, in my experience, anytime I've tried to be sort of fierce with myself or something, it doesn't work, but it happens on its own. Sometimes it just comes. That sort of that warrior energy just comes. So I have more faith that skillful energy and that wisdom about when and how to use it is within myself and will come when it's right. And I have no doubt that that's true for all of us. I think the most helpful thing, though, during that interview with Ajahn Sumedho was yet another of my questions to him. He must have been very patient with me. I said, he's always talking about awareness, trusting awareness, and awareness is just, noticing what is and being with it. So I said, well, why is awareness any more inherently trustworthy than thinking? Thinking doesn't sound like it should be trustworthy, and it gets, bad press all over the Buddhist books. But I don't have any reason to trust thinking any less than awareness. I mean, what's awareness? And his response was, that's a thought. Which can sound very glib. But what he was actually doing, I was using my thinking mind, my doubting thinking mind, to ask him a question. And instead of answering my mind, he spoke to my heart. He spoke to awareness. He just sidestepped that pattern of placing faith in thinking. He just named it. He did vipassana. That's a thought. That is vipassana, thinking. He just said thinking. And something shifted a little bit inside. There was a little less, he was right. It was a thought. But somehow, something in my heart just responded to that. So I think that confidence that we can all have in ourselves, maybe it's just a matter of brushing up against it again and again in small ways here and there. Most of the time we're thinking. Most of the time that's where we're living. But when, and notice it if you can, when there's an intuitive knowing, maybe artist types have more, I'm more of a science type, so I was trained to use my mind. Maybe artist types are living in their intuition and their awareness a lot more. I don't know. But for me, when there's just a knowing that doesn't really feel like it's coming from the thinking mind, that's valuable to notice. Just what does that feel like? Just feel that. Just even feeling it. You don't have to say, I need to trust this, but just feeling it. What does it feel like, and how does it feel to be feeling it? So, still doubting myself at the end of that wonderful interview, I wanted Ajahn Sumedho. I realized that my mind wanted Ajahn Sumedho. I didn't want to be responsible for my own practice, basically. And so I asked him to give me a practice. So that if it didn't work out, it was his fault, I suppose. But essentially I realized I wanted to borrow some of his confidence in the teachings, his confidence in himself, his confidence in me. I wanted to borrow some of that. And so I asked him for a practice. And he said, I said, what should I, for the next year, send me back home to America, what should I do for the next year? And so he said, okay, for the next year, watch doubt. That's all you have to do. Just listen to doubt. It's to bring it into awareness, to make it conscious, not suppressing it, but just get to know it. It doesn't have to go away. Just get to know it. It doesn't have to be a problem. I mean, it's not a hindrance if there's recognition of it and no resistance to it and no reactivity to it. It's just a thought. So I left the monastery once again thinking, should I become a monk? I've been thinking that thought for 12 years now. And whenever I think that thought, it brings up doubt. It brings up fear. It's the same mind. It's like, I believe that whatever we care about the most in our hearts, that's where we have the most difficulty, because that's where our whatever we love, that's where the challenge happens. The less important stuff to us doesn't get that much energy from us. So, and I really care about this practice. I care about freedom. I care about whatever it is. I don't even know, to use the word freedom, what does that even mean? But there's something that pulls me with this practice. I care about it. And so I worry about it, and I get afraid about it. It's important. It's important to me. I asked Ajahn Sumedho, what do you think? Should I ordain? I mean, I asked him that last summer, and he said, well, I think, of course I'm I'm a monk, Of course I think it's a good thing to ordain. But his response to me, given the context of his understanding what my mind does with a question like that, his response was, don't think about it. Don't try to decide. Just trust yourself. So that's what he said most often to me, is just trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Just trust yourself. Stop there. Any
Thank you. We'll
questions?
take comments.
If someone were to tell me practice doubt or just watch doubt, I wouldn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
So for those of us who might have similar issues to you, or at some level, how, at a practical level, do you go about practicing watching doubt?
Yeah. Just if you notice thoughts like, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, or this isn't going anywhere, whatever it is in your life, meditation practice, relationship, work, fixing something at home. I mean, it's true that we all can't do everything perfectly. We're not all, X-Men. I haven't seen the movie, but probably that's what they're like. They can do anything. So there's, it's not to say that we can do anything, but when the thought, I can't do this, probably would only come up in the mind if we actually can do it. Or that we want to be able to do it, we care about it, Yeah, I mean, there are different kinds of doubt. You can doubt the Buddha, you can doubt the Buddha's teachings, you can doubt teachers, you can doubt presidents, you can doubt your parents, you can doubt all kinds of different things, but what I'm mainly talking about and interested in is self-doubt, because it's so undermining for whatever we try to do in our lives. So I can't do this, or this isn't getting me anywhere. It's along those lines. So any flavor of that, if you notice that happening in your mind. I've had a couple teachers, when I've said things to them, they've said, that's doubt. And I said, what? How is that doubt? So I don't feel like I think it's a bigger, I don't feel like I can completely answer your question. I think there's sort of layers of doubt or flavors of doubt, bigger macroscopic views of doubt or smaller examples. And I'd like to be able to answer it more completely, but I'm still learning about it.
Hi. I find that when I'm confronted with doubt when life throws me a curveball.
Yeah.
And my initial response is doubt in myself to handle it, and also fear. And then a sense of mourning and anger, and then some reconciliation and rebirth. And at different points in my life, I've been thrown lots of different curveballs. And each time, it's a new challenge to question my doubt and go through that process of healing. And I just see it as part of life. I mean, I don't think we will ever stop doubting,
right,
because our life circumstances change. It's just part of the human condition. It's just, for me, I guess inherently I believe that the doubt will eventually pass, and that I have to just live with it. And then that change will happen over time, and just be mindful of it.
Perfect. That's an expression of faith. To me that sounds like a deeper level of the mind and the heart that's holding that sort of smaller, more mental experience of doubt. It sounds like you're not even resisting it or pushing it away, but that you're watching it, you're listening to it, you're noticing it. I mean, doubt isn't a problem, it's our reaction to it, and it sounds like you're letting it have its life, and without trying to really change things. Or maybe you do at the time, but there's also an awareness of what's happening.
There's a certain resistance.
Yeah, it's unpleasant, yeah.
Inherent, I mean, I know in my heart of hearts that it will ultimately, change. So that's the confidence, I guess.
Right.
That the doubt will pass.
Right. Right. I don't. From what I gather, people whose minds and hearts are pretty free are not problem-free. It all still happens. Everything still happens in the mind everywhere. It's just that there isn't the resistance to it. That's where the suffering comes in.
If I could just say something maybe a little provocative. Since I gave up faith, I have a lot less doubt. But I have a great appreciation for the Buddha's teaching, because attachment to faith seems to just produce doubt. Clinging to doubt produces the longing for faith. And the teaching is just be there. Just be there. That's it. Like your earlier comment. This is it. This is it. Do what you can with it.
Yeah.
That's what I thank you for what you've been able to say this morning.
You're welcome.
Howard?
I just wanted to validate an enormous courage and clarity and lack of doubt in your decision to go to England and to take those steps. And where did that come from? Did that originate from your heart, or was that mind stuff? It was one of my questions for you. But I also in Native American spirituality, when a person comes to a crossroads and there's doubt about which way to go, they call that the place of the gray clouds. And the practice in the place of the gray clouds is waiting. It's doing nothing, but it's waiting, listening, opening up. Because in the spirit, in the principle of impermanence, the gray clouds will pass, they will clear. And doubt is replaced with clarity. That's my practice around doubt is a lot of waiting, a lot of sitting, a lot of breathing.
So having patience with that.
A lot of patience, letting go of my projections and expectations and wants, and just allowing it to move, to be with it.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to validate what I saw as incredible clarity for you to make that decision to move and go to England and have that experience.
Yeah, thanks. It was just what felt right. It was a movement of intuition. It was evidence that I don't need to doubt myself. And the habit of doubt is a deep one in me and probably many of us. So it's a it's both. It's both, and it takes time and patience.
Well, thank you for your vulnerability, sharing it.
You're welcome.
Could you talk a little bit about the decision you were considering about becoming a monk? I've sort of thought about that too, and I don't know if doubt is the right thing to describe what I go through about it, but it seems that to become a monk is really to surrender the identity to a certain extent to the practice and the community and the life of a monk. It's kind of a merging in a way, and it also seems at the same time that to be gay is to feel that I have certain gifts and the things that make me different and set me apart from people. And so, I almost feel like in order to really be comfortable merging into a monastic community, it would have to be specified as a gay monastic community. And then I could say, well, I can merge into this group and give up my individuality without having to fall into a place where my gayness could actually be considered a hindrance or an obstacle or something like that. And it may be that just means that I'm not ready, and when I was ready, I would know, whether joining a non-gay monastery meant loss or didn't mean loss. It might just be clear to me. But I'm already almost 50, and I can't wait that much longer to make up my mind. So, how does that appear to you from your perspective, that issue, or what comes up for you?
Gayness? It doesn't, to me it doesn't, aside from having, from the inevitable, I imagine just being attracted to other monks and how am I going to deal with that, and I really can't let that happen, just things like that. From the time I've spent in monasteries and talking with monks and nuns, it feels, monasteries are like sort of another world in a way. It's really different, and assumptions about what it's going to be like and how I'm going to respond don't really end up. It's just really different. It's like a different plane of existence or something. I would just have to try and see. I really don't know. To live in a monastery in most, at least, Buddhist traditions means renouncing sexuality. Not masturbating, just nothing. And that's pretty universal, gay or straight, to renounce one's sexuality. I mean, it's just sexual impulse, but in whichever direction it's going. So everybody's kind of in the same situation. If I got a sense that in any given monastic community, there would be some kind of homophobia that's going on or something, then I wouldn't feel comfortable in that. But in terms of my sexuality, the decision to go in the monastery is in essence a decision to give up gayness, straightness. It's not giving it up. It's just relating to it in a very different way from how we're used to relating to it. So I have a friend who's gay and who's been a monk for many years, about 10 years now, at a monastery in this tradition that I've been talking about up outside of Ukiah. I could give you his name if you'd be interested in talking to him and get his experience. Yeah. Try to come up to me afterwards. And
one final question. Jim?
Yeah, I am. Thank you. You're talking very useful and very human and compassionate. I find it fascinating that your teacher said, "Order yourself."
Yeah.
To trust yourself.
Right.
This sort of the use of the sword
right.
is something which I don't think we exercise enough. We just say no, and as sort of like a final reaction. I think for those of us who grew up in a homophobic time, the matrix of our self-esteem is based on doubt. We were trained to doubt ourselves,
right.
Our very nature. And so it is beyond reactive. It's just, that's what the nature of that matrix is doubt. And so it's a huge challenge, I think. A few years ago, we all have our doubts, but I was assailed at every point. I was being annihilated by dimensions of invalidation. And something welled up with me and said, "Get out of my house," like it was a dark spirit. Mm-hmm. And it left. But that reminded me of just, I finally defended myself against these lies. But they were making an airtight legal case of a series of errors that left me in the abyss, and it was not true. But it was very convincing.
So that voice that came up within you, was that a product of your thinking mind? Did you decide to do that? See, I really believe that's all in our hearts, and that in the right conditions, that perfectly balanced knife on the knife edge fierceness, without any aversion, and with compassion, but with real clarity and fierceness. I think that's an innate capacity for all of us. I don't see it very often in myself, and when I do, it's awesome, and it inspires confidence in myself. But I believe that's all within us. It's there as a resource. Every time I see it, it's great. Notice, reflect on that, and let yourself, feel it. Feel that. Feel what it feels like, the power that's there, and the clarity, and the compassion in it. So that's great.
Thank you. Let's have announcements. Okay, CJ.
I am the potluck coordinator here, and we're having a potluck next Sunday, the 11th of June, over at Kay's place in Berkeley. He's at the second El Cerrito BART station, or you can try to carpool. I can't speak from fact, but I know he doesn't do anything lightly, so he might be preparing some kind of at least a moderate banquet or something. I don't know. This is just my knowledge of Kay. I specifically would highly recommend everybody attend the potluck. I'm not going to be here this next weekend. I have to work down at Gay Pride in San Jose, so I can't even be here to boost the potluck next week. I've got some flyers with instructions, his address, how to get there by car, by BART, laying out there on the desk. And potlucks are fun. I suggest people attend Kay's potluck next weekend.
Great, thanks, CJ. Francis?
Is anyone here for the first time today? Okay, welcome.
feel free to ask questions that are gathering here outside, and someone will find an answer.
Downable.
The Downable, yes. Please be generous. I got an email that said the host is supposed to carry this around to each one of you. Solicit your donation. I will try to do that, and of course, if you feel you can, it would be very nice. They tell me that they need the money, so it's however they do need the money. There are some cookies, and make yourself some tea. Please wash up. There is no cleanup crew. You are your own cleanup crew, and you're not supposed to leave even a crumb because no one wants any mice in here. So clean up after yourself before you go. Let's see, what else left?
Sign-up sheet.
Oh, the sign-up sheet, yes. There's a sign-up sheet if you want to get on the newsletter. Mailing list. I think it's also available on the net, right?
The newsletter? Yeah, yes.
Yes, it is. I think it is. So we encourage you to use it that way if you find that convenient. But if you want to get it in the mail, you can sign up on the sign-up sheet. And so, Jen, welcome. And again, if you have questions, feel free to ask, and we'll try and find an answer. Clint, were you going to talk about anything in the future about the
about
Hamilton?
Oh, well, I hadn't planned it, but I could. For 10 years, GDF has been sponsoring a monthly dinner at the Hamilton Family Center, which is a family center for homeless families. We did our last one yesterday, and the center is shutting down and consolidating to their downtown Tenderloin facility. So I'm trying to explore ways where we can continue this project. We can't do the Tenderloin, I don't think, because there's too many people that we can't provide dinner for 200 people. But I am exploring other options. And right now I'm talking to the people at the Larkin Street Youth Center, which deals with runaways, teenagers, I guess. And they're very enthusiastic. I explained what we've been doing and gave them sample menus, and they're very enthusiastic. So there is a strong possibility we will be continuing these monthly dinners in another format. And I'll keep people posted as soon as I have more concrete information on that line. It's a major way GDF does engage Buddhism, so I really hope that we're able to continue one way or form.
Yes.
I'd like to announce the forming of the text and video group. Notice I did say text, not sex and video group. The text and video group, TVG. It'll be a joint venture of GDF and QS members and friends. The TVG meets every Wednesday at 7 p.m. for reading, viewing, and discussion of selected books and videos. Dinners served beginning at 6 p.m. for those who arrive early. The focus of TVG is on group-selected materials which support insight into the human condition and advanced individual development. Discussion of the selected materials is open to all points of view and principally proceeds from a Buddhist worldview. The intention is to create an engaged and satisfying evening with friends. And there's a list on this flyer out here, there's a list of proposed books that the group will select, one a month maybe, and one of the videos once a month. And we'll be meeting at 2 North Pink in Berkeley.
Oh,
and I'd like to remind people that Community Thrift on Valencia accepts donations, and if you leave clothes or household items or whatever, to specify that the proceeds go to GBF, and then we see the proceeds, and that's the source of our income. That's one of our sources of income. Yes?
We have a newsletter today, and so I'm hoping that a number of people will stay and help get the newsletter out. Can I get a show of hands of people who think they might be able to participate in this?
Is that about half an hour? How long will people stay?
Well, Jack, how long does it normally take?
Oh, sure, it's just half an
Yeah. So it's not a major commitment, and you get to meet the other volunteers.
We're going to have to do this upstairs. I have been in touch with the people who run the center, and they are actually having another sitting in here. And they've also asked that everyone else be out of the downstairs area by 12:45 today. So I just want to remind everyone.
Thanks. There's a group that meets here at 1 on the first Sunday of the month.
I actually have an announcement.
Okay.
Totally unrelated to, well, partially unrelated to Buddhism at least. For 4 years now, some friends and myself, we've put on an art show and potluck over in Oakland. My friend Scott back there in his beautiful garden, and his paintings and my photographs, and there's 4 different artists who are going to be showing their artwork, and it's a potluck on a week from Saturday on the 17th. Potluck, we hang out in the backyard in the garden. Word goes out to we're part of the Billy Club, and a lot of Billies show up, and it's generally a lot of fun, and there's some art there. So if anybody's interested, I announced it last year, and a few people from GBF came and enjoyed themselves. So I have a few flyers with the date and directions if you'd like.
Paul, do you have the directory? I don't have it with me. Okay.
Never mind. Okay. So if you stand in a circle and hold hands, you can do the offering of meditation.
So I'd like to invite each of us to bring to mind people from our past and our present who have helped to inspire confidence in us. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Parents, teachers of various kinds, friends, pets, anyone who's helped inspire confidence in us. And also anyone who we feel that we may have inspired confidence in through our own being. If we could just reflect on that for a moment. These people are our benefactors on the path. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.